Hey everybody, welcome to TnSportsChat presented by Lehigh Valley Health Network. I'm Patrick Matzinko along with Emmett McCall. Our first episode of 2020, and as we're into the new year for wrestling, this episode obviously we have a heavy amount of tournaments to kind of sift through and to kind of go over. Certainly been a lot of tournament action, throughout the course of the season, but it always kind of feels like once we hit the new year in January, it really kind of kicks off a really crucial stretch for a lot of these teams in just kind of postseason prep, I guess.
Yeah, a couple of tournaments last week we're going to talk about a little. We got the Schuylkill League tournament coming up this week. Week after that, the Coal Cracker, which has, I think, 7 of our 8 local wrestling teams will be involved in that.
Almost all of them except for Pleasant Valley.
Yeah. So, and then right after that, we've got district duels coming up. So it's a big tournament overload right now at this time.
Yeah, and then you look at the schedule and the calendar, and you think about once you get through district duels, that takes you to the end of January. So then you're into February, and by the time we hit the end of February, then we're into districts, and the season's pretty much over. So it's going to be kind of rapid fire from here until the end of the season. But I think a lot of teams really kind of kicked off this sort of kind of prep in earnest. Maybe the last few weeks, and especially for a lot of our area teams, we had the Indian duels at Lehigh just this past weekend, which is always a good kind of little tune-up, I think, for a lot of teams, where you get to see some schools that you're familiar with, some that you're not. You bring in the Tunkhannock's, the Scrantons, East Stroudsburg North, Whitehall, but then you have a couple of kind of local regional rivals that you are familiar with and kids that you know.
Right. So we had Lehigh, Jim Thorpe, and Panther Valley all there. You covered it. We had a good show. I think we had 5 wrestlers from our area that went 5-0 over the weekend.
And that's always really nice because, and I'm even talking to Jim Thorpe head coach Sean Albert, just kind of talking about what it's like to see different styles, see different, skills. And obviously kind of take what you're seeing as an opponent, but then also seeing what's working for you as well. So I think it gives kids that different look, which is huge once you get into those postseason matches against opponents you don't know.
And it also prepares you for wrestling 3 and 4 times in a day, like you're going to have to at districts and possibly regionals too, because this was a one-day tournament. Right? And so all these kids had 5 bouts in a single day, which is more than you'll see, the most you will see ever at districts.
And even, again, you talk to some coaches and they'll say this is, as good as you can get to kind of simulating it, because that's about as much as you can get, in a given day where you're wrestling 5 matches in about 5-6 hours. The tournament started around 8. We were out of there by 20 to 4, so, you think about just kind of with a couple of breaks and that type of thing. But, the Indians, they were second a year ago, third this year, really kind of battled back to beat East Stroudsburg North in that match, which was a really, really nice match. And obviously they had a lot of key contributors, and I think it's kind of carried over. Floyd Brown was maybe a little disappointed, Indians head coach, with 0-5 start in a lot of those matches, but again, had some injuries, have some kids that are kind of just trying to round into form. And you look, they pick up 3 wins there, finish third, they come right back, beat a Palmerton team that's scrappy, trying to just kind of get over the hump.
Another close bout.
Get another one there. They get another one against Northern Lehigh. So, once you kind of get that, get that confidence, it really helps to build momentum. And I think that's kind of been going for the Indians right now.
Yeah, we, Richard Frohnheiser and Brett Gasker, I believe both went 5-0 at that tournament, wrestled well.
Yeah, and, again, those are guys that you think that they're going to be really counting on kind of down the stretch. Coach Brown mentioned it on Monday night. You look at some of those upper weights and you're really kind of hoping that they come through. And in a team duel type of situation, they can kind of swing the match. And that was what seemed to happen on Monday night, seemed to happen on Saturday. So, those are guys that, Frohnheiser at 170. I mean, on Monday night, he pulled out a 10-9 win. Brett Gasker is a kid that is kind of coming back, had an injury. He looks really, really strong. And you're just kind of hoping those guys can go out there and really deliver. So it really helps take pressure off the rest of the lineup too.
Yeah, and we have Alex Ziegenfuss, Steve Fritzinger, Lucas Ferguson, all went 4-1. Lucas Sangiuliano went 4-1, and Michael Yackel went 3-1. So a lot of Indian wrestlers wrestled well in that tournament.
Yeah, and you're looking for quality mat time, and I think that's the big thing, is that they're out there getting 3 periods in, and maybe they get a pin, maybe they go and they get a decision, but they're getting that quality mat time, which is, again, huge at this point in the season.
Another team that wrestled there, Jim Thorpe, had a few wrestlers, once again, who had great individual performances in the tournament. It looked like 3 5-0 wrestlers they had. Derek Hunter, Gabe Heaney, Jared Newhall, all went 5-0. Newhall was extremely impressive with his pin total and pin times in that tournament.
I mean, he was just, kind of blitzing through and just pinning kids. Looks really strong, looks really focused. And then you go, you think about he's around 170. Then you go up to heavyweight with Derek Hunter. He's another kid that he's pinning kids. Also pulled out a really tough decision. So he's been really strong. Only has 1 loss this season. And for Gabe Heaney, I know, Coach Albert had mentioned that maybe at the beginning of the day he wasn't exactly feeling great, wasn't feeling his best. But still was able to go out there and finish off a 5-0 day, which is big, because if you're in a situation like that at districts or regionals or something along those lines, and you're not 100%, and you don't go out there and try to fight through it, that could be the end of your season.
Right.
So, so those are the kind of things that I think coaches really like to see from tournaments like that, where you're getting 5 matches in a day, and just kind of what it can simulate for the postseason and going forward, obviously. So.
Panther Valley was the 3rd local team there. Who wrestled well for the Panthers?
Johnny Byers had a really nice tournament. I think for Coach Zane Bockert. I think he was 4-1, was maybe 2-2. A week prior at the Anthracite duels. Deontay Alston also had a nice showing, but did get injured in his last match of the day, which was a loss against Whitehall. So hoping that he can kind of regroup, get back, get healthy, and kind of be ready to go for that stretch run to kind of close out the season. So we'll see a lot of those teams tomorrow. We're doing this on a Thursday. We'll see those teams tomorrow at the Schuylkill League tournament.
Right, so. Schuylkill League tournament, all those 3 teams, in addition to Tamaqua, will be there, and Marion will have some kids represented. They're doing a co-op with Schuylkill Haven again this year, so those kids will be there. Speaking of Tamaqua, they wrestled in the Hamburg duels, was it last week, and they had a couple good showings. Bronson Strauss, I know, was 5-0. There, who else am I missing? Randy Steigerwalt was 4-1 at those duels.
And you look at those are the kind of kids.
That was Line Mountain duels.
Line Mountain duels. Yeah. And those are the kind of kids that Coach Jim McCabe is going to kind of be counting on, along with Nate Wickersham, Aaron Cochio. There are just so many guys there. Carson Krell, that are going to be big for the Raiders this season. You look at Bronson Strauss, again, a kid with only 1 loss. He's been as dominant as anybody, and kind of an interesting matchup, I guess, as you're looking at some brackets for the Schuylkill League tournament. He's obviously on the other side of the bracket with Derek Hunter. So there's a good chance, hopefully, if things work out, that we'll get to see Strauss and Hunter wrestle for a title.
That would be cool.
Yeah, so that would be a lot of fun. But yeah, you're looking at, again, where these kids are, and it's kind of a nice way to see kind of where they're at against some of their peers that they're going to ultimately be kind of matched up against in the postseason.
So we talked about some last week tournaments. We talked about Schuylkill League tournaments this week. I know you're going to be doing a story for next week's paper on the Cold Cracker tournament. Involves 7 of the 8 local teams, like we said earlier, but there is a change in that this year.
Yeah, had always been held at Panther Valley. I think last year was the 10th annual, but it's just continued to grow and grow and grow.
Like 200 teams now.
I think they
capped it at like 40-ish.
Yeah, but even when you look at track wrestling and you look at some of the number of teams that are entered, it shows that there are about 47, 48.
That's crazy, but
which is humongous.
And like you said, it kind of outgrew Panther Valley.
Yeah, and now this year it will be held at Lehigh. It'll kind of be split between the high school and the elementary center. So looking forward to that. That'll be fun too, to kind of see how the tournament runs at Lehigh. I mean, the Indians, outside of the Indian duels, which are just held inside the high school gymnasium, again, that's a one-day thing, over in a matter of hours, I guess. But yeah, now you're going to be bringing in something that's as big as states. It's huge. You're bringing in schools from all over the place. It's going to be absolutely gigantic for 2 days.
Long day Saturday.
Oh yeah,
long day Friday even.
Yeah. So it's going to be a big test, I think, too.
For Kyle Spotts, as the Lehigh
Director of Student Services and Facilities Planning, I think.
Yeah, that's the full name. But yeah, it will be a challenge. And I'm sure the Panther Valley kids will be, the Panther Valley coaches and the people who ran the tournament for them for the last couple of years are going to kind of help with this organization too.
And former Panther Valley head coach Tim Robb he obviously now this is his second year away from coaching the program, but he's as involved and active as ever, continuing to help with a lot of these programs. He was actually at Lehigh on Saturday, and they did a trial test run doing the event through track wrestling. Just had everybody set up to make sure that it could run and that it would work properly. So they're 2 weeks out, and he's already kind of doing some testing and seeing what bugs need to be worked out for the Coal Cracker, obviously coming up next weekend.
Right,
so,
and anybody who wants to read a little bit more details about that, next Thursday's Times News, our Winter Sports Notebook, that'll be the featured story. Pat's doing it, so check that out.
Yeah, I think that'll be a lot of fun. Again, it's a huge, huge tournament. We don't have anything like that in the area that's that massive, where you're pulling from literally all over. I mean, we get teams that you're familiar with from District 11, but then you get teams that are from all over the place. You'll get to see a lot of great competition, great talent. Notre Dame's going to be there, probably the top AA team, in the district, obviously, and maybe in the state, with tons of talent. So yeah, it's a great opportunity to get to see some really, really good wrestling and not have to go far to do it. So.
Speaking of really good wrestling, today's paper, Thursday's paper, Times News, has the first wrestling rankings of the year that you compiled.
Yeah, and the first ones are always a little bit tough to kind of go through, just because you have so much volume that you're trying to kind of pack in and condense, I guess. So it's not an exact science. You're kind of looking for head-to-head matchups, maybe quality of opponent, quality of matches, and that kind of thing. But the first one of the season is always maybe the most difficult, but hopefully maybe also the most comprehensive, because you're trying to wrap up about month and a half or so of matches, so you're trying to plug in as much as you can. But so looking forward to kind of seeing how some of these kind of positions change, I guess, going forward.
Right, I mean, the Coal Cracker tournament, lots of area teams, there's a decent chance we get some head-to-head matchups, and if not, at least we'll have some common opponents that you can start comparing people against.
Absolutely, and that's a really nice thing where you start to get that. You can kind of break it down a little bit more, and again, we'll have that hopefully this weekend at leagues as well, where you have some guys that are kind of right next to each other in the rankings, and if things play out the way that you hope, you might get a chance to see them go head to head, and that sometimes makes that decision a little bit easier.
Oh, yeah,
so that'll be a lot of fun going forward, just to kind of keep up with that. And again, that'll be something that we kind of rotate with the basketball stats each week. So next week we'll have a wrestling column, the feature on the Coal Cracker, and then the rankings will return the following week. Right. But I think that's also nice too, because it kind of helps to keep it fresh, because you're kind of taking in more than just that 6-7 days worth or so of matches, and with postponements sometimes you don't always get.
Yeah, some teams don't even wrestle if you get a postponement in there. So it's nice. The 2 weeks gives a lot of schools 3-4.
It's a decent amount
of their wrestlers.
Yeah, and then you throw in some tournaments, and you have a nice amount to write about. So so look for that every other Thursday, and look for our notebook to run every Thursday. So whether it's the basketball or the wrestling stuff, that'll be every Thursday throughout the winter sports season. So but definitely a lot to look forward to, and we'll be into February and kind of in the postseason before you know it. So anything else for you?
No, I think we're good.
All right, for Emmett McCall, I'm Patrick Matsinko. Thanks again for tuning in to TN Sports Chat, presented by Lehigh Valley Health Network.